And I tell people it was a good experience for me. I mean, even the days that I was nauseous and, was laying on my couch and just, vegging out, it wound up being a good experience, challenging, but something that I came out on the other side of and I think was a positive thing for me. Certainly made me stronger, certainly made my faith stronger. And sometimes that's what it takes, a challenge like that in your life to bring you to where you need to be, and to who you really are, make you stronger. Too bad it has to happen that way, but I think that's just kind of normal, and for me, it was my cancer.
Cancer is just something that we all have to recognize, acknowledge, cope with, live with, struggle with, rage upon, crush, and even thrive with. This show is more than knowing and fighting or beating cancer. It's more than just relaying science, hope, and technology. Together, our purpose is to demystify cancer, take away as much fear out of the diagnosis, treatment, and process as we can, defeat its grip on our lives. This is The Cancering Show. Welcome to The Cancering Show. I'm your host, Dr. Jennifer Young-Pierce. I am so excited about this episode. We have not previously brought back a patient 5 years out from their diagnosis, and this is one you're going to want to listen to. So that also means that The Cancering Show is creeping towards our 5-year anniversary. And just a reminder to go back and listen to any of those previous episodes if you have not already. In particular, we invite you to listen to the episode of the Warrior Princess from September of 2019 with the Honorable Gina Gregory. And today she is joining us again. She is our city councilwoman from Mobile, Alabama, and breast cancer survivor. She is now 5 years out from the end of her treatment. As always, she is going to tell us everything that has happened since then. She always keeps it real, telling you and us the good, the bad, and the ugly, and always full of warrior princess spirit. Here we go. Welcome back. Please give a warm welcome to the Honorable Gina Gregory, who is back on The Cancering Show 5 years out.
Well, if you're calling me the Honorable, then I'm calling you Doctor.
As long as it's Dr. JYP.
That's right, Dr. JYP.
Keeping it chill.
All right.
So, Gina, you were here September of 2019, right before the pandemic. For our listeners who have not heard that episode, can you just take us back?
Oh, goodness. Thinking back that far, it's trying to remember exactly where I was about a year out. My hair was starting to come back. Hadn't been on my Arimidex very long. Still kind of, I guess, trying to get used to all the new stuff, the new normal, if you will, for me. But, along the way, people had told me, you're going to forget. It's going to be like it was so important and you were so into it while you were going through all of this because it was every day. But 5 years down the road, you're going to forget. And they were right. Certain things, I do remember because I guess they were just, I don't want to call it highlights, but because there was just more to it maybe. So certain things I remember, but a lot of it, I do kind of forget. And I think that's a good thing.
I think that's a good thing, too. For our listeners, Gina was diagnosed with breast cancer in March of 2018 and had surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation at the Mitchell Cancer Institute. She was a guest on our episode 5. We, too, were early on back then of The Cancering Show, and we named your episode Gina Gregory, Warrior Princess. Now, you coined that term during the episode. Do you remember what you said?
I did, because I thought that saying survivor reminded me of the cat that's hanging on the wall by its fingertips. I'm surviving. Whereas a warrior princess is somebody who is constantly doing battle, who's very aggressive and, moving forward. And that's really the way I look at it, that it's not something that ends. I mean, I'm a survivor, but it doesn't end. I'm in remission, hope to stay that way the rest of forever.
Right.
But it's a constant thing every day. There's always something that reminds me that, I have cancer. I had all this going on with me. And so it's a constant thing every day that you remember, that you want to continue that battle, if you will. You never give up.
Right. So you also said the term new normal. And we had a guest who used the same term. And for those of you who hadn't heard that episode, it was a previvor, a woman who had surgery to prevent cancer. And so give us some examples, if you don't mind, of kind of what you feel like is your new normal.
Well, some people will say there is nothing normal about it, and there's not. But it is now my normal because of things that happened to me. I certainly didn't bring all this on myself, but I went through it. I did all of the chemotherapy, the radiation, all the surgeries. I mean, I look like the Bride of Frankenstein a little bit. So that's what I live with every day. But I'm used to it. The medicine that I take every day, that lovely Arimidex that keeps all of the hormones out of my body, bunch of side effects, but I'm used to it. And the thing about it is what saves my life. It is what keeps the cancer at bay. So for me, having joint pain, headaches, all the things that go along with it, thinning hair, that's normal. You just do the best you can every day, and that is my normal.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing. And sharing has really been a part of this journey for you since you began. You did the Facebook Live series. For those of us who haven't seen it, for those of you listening who haven't seen it, it walks you through every step of the process of her treatment, honestly, and not knowing how it was going to end. They're amazing. They're posted on Facebook on the Mitchell Cancer page and titled Live with Gina Gregory. You see you in chemo and getting radiation, all kinds of very personal, scary moments. What was that like to share all of that with folks?
A lot of people ask me how I could do it, why I did it. For me, it was cathartic. It really was. I thought, okay, people know my name. They know me. I have this disease. So it was really twofold: to put the information out there because I thought it might help. And secondly, because I felt like doing these things, it was kind of like doing TV and getting prepared for all of these different spots and being able to talk about it. And a lot of times tell jokes about it and all the funny things that go along with it. So it was cathartic for me to be able to do that. And I think it really helped because I had more of an attitude of like, okay, yeah, I'm going to get my chemo today. Woohoo, I'm going to be drunk, because of just what the medication does to you.
Right.
And then to be able to come back and speak to groups and talk about the funny side, which cancer, chemo is funny. Well, there are some funny moments that, you just really remember going forward, like, all of the white coats. You see somebody coming in a white coat now, you want to pull your top off because all the doctors wanted to see. And so there are just a lot of things, like that I remember, and just being able to talk about it and have people call in or email in and ask questions and try to get some answers from somebody who's really been through it and who doesn't mind sharing some of the parts that are just, kind of ugly.
Yeah. And your willingness to share is so courageous. We don't talk about that enough because you are a public personality here in Mobile and so much of your life is shared. But it's incredibly courageous to share that diagnosis. Even on the other side of the pond, we've recently seen people who are very private about what happens in the hospital, and it really means a lot for you to share that with folks. And I know a lot of my patients, even with gynecologic cancers, have taken inspiration from that. And to this day, I still say you need to listen to episode 5. Port or no port. Gina says port.
Port is the way to go, ladies, men, whoever. Get a port. You don't want to have to go through this without a port.
Well, I am dying to ask this question.
Okay.
So many of my patients don't know when to get the port out. There's this kind of superstition that getting the port out is like, oh no, and then the cancer's going to come right back as soon as I get the port out. So what did you decide?
I kept it in for a while because I was still having to go monthly to do my labs. And I thought as long as I'm going monthly and they have to do the lab work, it's just easier to keep the port. But as I was going through some of these cosmetic procedures, my plastic surgeon finally said, it's been a while. Do you want me to take this thing out? I said, yes. So it came out, all has been good. And now when I go do my labs, it's only every 6 months now. So, we just do it the old-fashioned way. They find a vein.
And you still have good veins because you had a port.
Yes, I still have good veins. They have not blown out. If I could tell anybody anything, yes, if you were going through these treatments, get a port.
Awesome. And now, 5 years out from ringing the bell and completing your treatment, for our listeners, 5 years is considered a milestone in cancer survivorship because we really think that at that point, the likelihood of it coming back is less than the possibility of something else. And so it is a big, big milestone. So how does 5 years feel to you?
I don't want to think about it as, okay, it's over, we're done, because we're not. But 5 years was good. I mean, that was my first real milestone, not having to get the labs and see the oncologist once a month. Now we're at 6 months. So for him, he counts back from the day of diagnosis. So it's been 5.5 years.
I like it.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, I'm happy about it. Mm-hmm. Still keeping on. People ask me, how long are you going to stay on the Arimidex? And I said, at least another 5 years, just because I want to just make sure as best I can. But I feel good. I've gotten used to all the lovely side effects that come along with, these medications. I hit the gym a lot because that helps. It helps with the problem of osteoporosis for me, especially being on Arimidex. My last bone density, they said, your bones are great. You don't need to be on Fosamax. Why are you taking this? So yeah, things are good. Feel good. As far as I know, all is good in my world.
Awesome. Now, a lot of people make changes in diet or exercise after a diagnosis. Is there anything that you changed that you're still doing that you feel like has really helped in survivorship?
When I was diagnosed, the main thing during that first period was just getting through everything. They will tell you, just eat. Make sure you eat and keep your energy up as best as possible. Take your meds and all that kind of thing. But once all of that was over, I really tried to get back on a better path because prior to diagnosis, I was exercising a lot and wound up gaining some weight and things like that and not eating properly. But once all of the chemotherapy, all the radiation, all of that was over, I got back on a better path for eating more organic types of fruits and vegetables and meats, being more careful about it, as well as exercising, going back to the gym, making sure that I was doing these kinds of things that were important because, just because my treatment was over didn't mean that all of it was over, because you don't want to just backslide so far that you hurt yourself in other ways. Mm-hmm. So for me, especially right now, is working out really hard and watching my diet. Now, one thing I don't do quite as much of, and I probably should, is watch all the organics. I still try to stay away from certain fruits and vegetables that are not organic and meats, that kind of thing. But somewhere during all this process, I went into my makeup bag, my medicine cabinet, all of the hygiene products that I used, threw everything out that was not natural or organic. And I still do most things like that, but I'm kind of gotten back to where, I can use this. It's not so bad, So I think for me, I found a bit of a middle ground because at first, and I've talked to other people, they do the exact same thing. You just go way off the other direction.
Right.
Like, I will not touch anything but. And then you kind of settle down a little bit. I was taking all these supplements and other things that I'm not doing as much now.
Yeah.
So you kind of settle in and figure out what really works for you and what you need to do and not do. And so what I'm doing now works. And really and truly, my husband and I go to the gym all the time. USA Rec Center, put in a plug.
Nice.
We do that. And I'm trying to watch my diet. Not to say that we haven't been up and down. I love cake. I love ice cream, sugarholic, all of that, and try to stay away from it as best I can. And, it's working.
Okay. Well, I think you're doing great and looking great. All of those things are perfect. Is there something from a side effect standpoint that is something maybe we don't see? A cancer survivor said recently, like, we all look fine, but we're not fine. And I appreciate that there are things that we don't see that maybe you continue to struggle with.
There are some things, and they are side effects. Going in, you're warned about certain things. The obvious. You're going to lose your hair. You may lose your sense of taste, things like that. And you have to be really careful going through some of it because your immune system is compromised. So there's a lot of that. But what you don't necessarily think about are the others. I have receding gums, which is a result of the chemotherapy. I have ringing in my ears, which is a result of the chemotherapy. kind of comes in handy sometimes when I don't want to have to hear my husband, but we won't go to that.
I thought that was a disease only husbands.
Yeah, well, he's kind of got it too, but but for me, it's like, I can't hear. So there's that. I still have a little bit of numbness in a couple of my toes on my left foot, which is a result. So there, just things like that are possibilities that can happen, and people get some, others get nothing, and some people wind up with a whole host of side effects from lymphedema, on down the line. So I think I was very fortunate, really, that I came out of it as well as I did. I do have a lot of joint pain, but it's off and on. Mm-hmm. The heating pad is my best friend, and I take a little bit of anti-inflammatory when I need to. So that's how I kind of regulate it. Plus, again, ladies, men, everybody, especially at my age, the gym and weightlifting is your friend. It really, really works. It is so good for you.
I love to hear that it really helps you to feel better.
It does. It helps you feel better. I'm stronger. My bones are good. I feel good. Weightlifting, of course, weight training burns more calories. Your metabolism speeds up. So all of that is good. You don't have to go out and run 10 miles. Just go lift some weights.
I love it. Great advice, because I am not going to run 10 miles.
No. Neither will I. Even years ago, I wouldn't have been running 10 miles. So.
And I mean, the great thing about exercise is it has a kind of treating the emotional component as well, and helps a lot to process that. Was there anything in your survivorship that you really needed to work through from an emotional standpoint?
Thinking back, when I was first diagnosed and then started the treatment, it really is a whirlwind. Because the first time you get diagnosed, it's sort of surreal. Mm-hmm. And then you start all of these tests. It's like an alphabet soup of testing that you go through. And then it's like, I started with surgery rather than starting with the treatment. So that was the first thing that we did. And getting over that and then starting all the chemotherapy and whatnot. It was just such a whirlwind to go through that I don't know that I necessarily stepped back and thought, I have cancer. This is scary. I don't think it really hit me that way. And part of me, maybe I buried my head in the sand. I don't know, but maybe that's just the way I operate, that, I try to have a positive outlook rather than, I'm the glass is half full rather than half empty kind of a girl. And I think I just said, well, okay, I've got it now. What do we do? Let's just get through it every day, one step at a time. When I was nauseous, I finally learned to take my medication. Somebody told me a long time ago, you don't get extra gold stars for being a martyr. And it finally dawned on me, like, you big dummy, take your medicine. It was much better.
Yeah.
They're right. So you do what you've got to do. You get through it and know that all these other women, all these other men have been through what you were going through. They have survived it. They have done it. They are moving on with their lives. You can too.
Yeah.
And it's scary, yeah. But you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very positive attitude plus, your faith. Had it not been for that, it might have been a different story.
Yeah. And a lot of patients get through the fight or flight, but find that there's some, emotional healing after you get through all of that, when you're like, oh, this happened.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of that, sure. You can't help but have that, because every day when I get out of the shower, I'm reminded.
Right.
Can't help.
Yeah.
And then the medicine that I take, I'm reminded every day. And every time I hear a story about somebody with breast cancer, and especially when somebody dies from breast cancer, and it's just on and on, you can't help but think about it. So it's just still out there.
Yeah.
But you just have to move on and not let it get you down.
Absolutely. To that end, there has been a laundry list of new things that have come out in cancer, even since your diagnosis. Anything that strikes you that you kind of really remember hearing about, or kind of wish that had been around when I was going through it, anything like that?
Well, the only thing really is the immunotherapy, and I've read up on that, a bit, so that if it ever happens to someone else, or if, me again, I would like to think that whatever the newest thing is that I would be able to use. But I know the Arimidex that I take is, well, when you start thinking about medicines and how long they've been on the market, it's fairly new in and of itself. Because what was it? Tamoxifen was the first one that came out, the hormone inhibitors. And so what I'm taking is fairly new. So there are a lot of new medications and methods and all those sorts of things that are out there. And I think that's really good news for people who are diagnosed to know that there are treatments available, there are medications available that back years ago were not even considered. I mean, years and years ago, when somebody got cancer and they had to have chemotherapy, it was just like a death sentence. It was horrible,
right?
To have to go through all of that. And now they've got all these wonderful, what they call, of course, the cocktail to give you prior to the chemo that, you just kind of sail on through. With the steroids, you feel like you can go home and clean the house and cut the grass and things, and you're feeling good.
Yes.
And they give you all these other wonderful things to keep you from being nauseous. So that is all new, and it makes it so much better. I've talked to a lot of women who were at my church, and they had cancer, 20 years before, and they would tell me all these just horror stories. I said, oh, my gosh, I'm just so glad that that's not the way it was.
Right. As we say, this is not your mother's chemo.
Yeah, not your mother's chemo, not your mother's cancer. It's all new.
Right.
Which is great.
It is. It is. And, one of the takeaways that I think about, we know so much more about the immune system's role in cancer since immunotherapy has done all these amazing things, but it really does say kind of what we knew all along, which is take care of your body, take care of your immune system as part of your survivorship, because it does make a difference.
Yeah, and I think also inflammation plays a role, and just everything, how it affects your body, your gut, all of that. And I never would have thought about that.
Right.
It was just, oh, yeah, my stomach's upset. I have this, I have that. Well, yeah, it all plays into it.
Yeah.
So we're just learning so much more.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you bringing up about the gut. And we haven't talked enough about the microbiome and the bacteria that help your immune system to do the work. That is going to have to be a future episode. We'll make sure to put that in.
Yeah.
So, Gina, the last time you were here, we talked about what you would tell your former self. Now, 5 years later, what would you say to that question?
Yeah, I think I kind of go back to the whole throwing out everything in my makeup bag and going off the deep end on everything's got to be organic, everything's got to be natural. No, you can't use that. I was ordering detergent online because I couldn't find any. Just really kind of going berserk. My husband's head was spinning, watching me do all of this. So I think it's like, just settle down. You don't have to take every supplement that's out there. There are things you need, but not everything. So just settle down. It will be okay. Find that happy medium, and it'll all work.
Absolutely.
But I think we all just have to go through it,
I do think it's a path, and we see a lot of folks go through it. I will say, just to be cautious, unfortunately, folks who are very nervous about survivorship are often victimized by predatory behaviors on the internet and otherwise.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They see you as a ready, willing, and able audience to buy whatever they're selling.
Oh, yeah, and there's a lot of that out there, because as soon as you're diagnosed, you become Dr. Google and just everything, know.
Yeah, so always with the, doctor's advice and all those things. So what advice do you have for folks who are in survivorship? And maybe, let's say, the second half of survivorship. I think you've done all the things that we would tell you to do for the first 5 years. What does the next 5 years look like?
I think it's just not to stop. You can't just settle in and say, okay, well, now I've done this, now I've done that, and I can just sit on my couch and watch TV and eat cake and ice cream again. No, that's not it. You just have to keep going. I think I have to be vigilant. I have to keep staying in tune with my body. Now, every time I have a backache or a headache, the cancer hasn't gone to my brain, it hasn't gone to my bones, all those kinds of things. Because for a while, every time I would get a backache or a headache, I had the list of side effects from the Arimidex. It was on my refrigerator.
Right.
I'd go read them down. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, yeah.
Right.
So just keep on keeping on, be vigilant. Never let your guard down. Know it's still there, but you are doing everything you can to make sure that it doesn't come back. And if it does come back, then you'll take care of it. But just have that positive attitude going forth, and I think you'll be good, And there's a great group of women and men and medical professionals in this city who can take care of you. I mean, I can't say enough good about what happened with me, my experience at MCI. You know, my doctors were great. Everybody that had to give me the chemotherapy, those poor people.
On TV.
And on TV. I'll never forget the nurse that was, doing the first day that we were on Channel 5, actually, and she was giving me my first infusion. It was one of the funniest things ever because it was that Benadryl that went down.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, I'd never had Benadryl like that before. And she was laughing. She goes, "Oh, yeah, it's like a couple of shots of tequila." I said, "Yes, on an empty stomach." It was funny. But, I mean, they were great.
Yeah.
They were really good to me, and they've got a very difficult job. You know, my oncologist, Thomas Butler, was terrific. So, I mean, I had a great experience, and I would certainly tell anybody to go to MCI and use their doctors. University of South Alabama, health system is terrific.
Awesome. What's ahead for you?
Well, who knows? I'm on the city council. Still, let's see, our election will be in 25, so I've got some time yet left on my term. We are still blowing and going in District 7 and doing things in the city, and keeps me pretty busy. My husband is working part-time, so we have more time now. He has gotten his Master Gardener certificate. So
fabulous.
Yes, I tell him that I get to reap what he sows because, talk about organic. I mean, we've got the tomatoes, the broccoli, the peppers, you name it, in our little garden.
Amazing.
So he's busy with that, and we spend time together. My dog Max is, my boy.
I love it.
He's part of our family. So, it's slowed down a little bit because, I'm only doing the city council job now. I say only.
I know. Most people do consider that just the one job.
It can be full-time, it can be part-time, but there's a lot of downtime, but then suddenly things are crazy and, it can be stressful, but I love what I do. And working in the community and making a difference in people's lives. And so that's important. That's, I think, part of who I am,
And, we talk a lot about making survivorship count. And I think seeing all the things you're doing for our city and how you keep just living with an incredibly positive attitude, it's easy to see how you're doing that.
Well, it's been good. My colleagues at the city council, the mayor's office, everybody, they were so good to me. When I first told them that I had been diagnosed, the first thing we did, we all gathered together and Mayor Stimson was with us and he led a prayer, for me. So they were so helpful and supportive of everything that I did. So it's been a really good if it can be a good experience. And I tell people it was a good experience for me. I mean, even the days that I was nauseous and, was laying on my couch and just, vegging out, it wound up being a good experience, challenging, but something that I came out on the other side of and I think was a positive thing for me. Certainly made me stronger, certainly made my faith stronger. And sometimes that's what it takes, a challenge like that in your life to bring you to where you need to be, and to who you really are, make you stronger. That's too bad it has to happen that way, but I think that's just kind of normal, and for me, it was my cancer.
Well, I think that is an amazing place to stop. Thank you so much for coming into the studio today,
you
Gina.
Are
it's
so
amazing
welcome.
To see how well you're doing.
Well, I feel good. Thank you. Let's not wait another, 5 years.
Yes.
to do
no
this.
way. Wow. What an amazing woman. Gina shared her authentic cancering experience, one that you will all, I think, relate to and understand as you go through it yourselves or go through it with a family member. We don't have to tell you it's never quite over. And Gina confirmed that for us as well. And that while cancering patients might look fine, they're never quite fine. There's always something that may be going on that makes it a little harder. Chronic symptoms or side effects that they may be dealing with. So always remember, you never quite know what somebody's going through. Gina also gave a lot of great advice for new cancer patients, really helpful, specific advice. But I think more generally for all of you, both patients and caregivers, to remember that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And that even with that at the end of it all, you do forget some of the hard. You may not forget it all, but that you do get through it and those memories fade. And more importantly, I think she gives you what we've heard from so many people, that while they would never want to have cancer or have anybody in their life have cancer, that journey can have a lasting positive impact on your life and your outlook. So I hope you find that too. Until the next time, keep cancering and take care of yourselves. Thanks again for listening. And don't forget to submit your questions at www.cancering.com. We're here for all of those questions and we'll get you the answers. This show is brought to you by the University of South Alabama Mitchell Cancer Institute. MCI is a cutting-edge cancer research and patient center built to fight cancer smarter in Mobile and Baldwin County, Alabama. Our researchers and clinicians focus daily on the struggle against cancer, serving a potential catchment population of more than 4.1 million people, with a singular focus of advancing cancer diagnosis, treatment, and prevention throughout the Gulf Coast and beyond, with science, technology, and hope. Want to know more about the Mitchell Cancer Institute? Visit us at usamci.com or search for us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Mitchell Cancer Institute is a member of USA Health. To learn more about all of our hospitals, clinics, and services, visit usahealthsystem.com.